How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Baking World Tour. And today we're gonna go to the Bahamas with this crispy prawn burger. We got nice handmade soft burger bun, spicy slaw, a zingy sauce, and some crispy Cajun prawns. This is a thing of beauty, and the best part is that it's super easy to make. I bet this is the simplest burger bun recipe you'll ever see. So let's get to it and see what we need. We'll need some flour for the buns, yeast, salt, a bit of soft butter, sugar, a whole egg, and some milk. To glaze the buns, I'm going to use an egg yolk mixed with a teaspoon of milk. Now onto the fillings, starting with the prawns. I've got some nice king prawns here. For the crispy coating, we'll need some flour and some seasonings. I've got some Cajun spice, garlic powder, onion powder, and a bit of salt. And to make the flour stick, we're going to use an egg mixed with some milk. And while we're here, we might as well mix the flour up with the spices. The amount of spice in relation to the flour is quite low, so we're not going to overpower the prawns. You could of course use different spices if you wanted to. And that's all we need for the prawns: the egg mix, the flour, and the prawns themselves. We've got some thinly sliced cabbage for the slaw, some grated carrots, some thinly sliced red onion, some chopped spring onions, a bit of mayonnaise with salt and pepper. We'll add a bit of lime juice to that to make it nice and acidic. And finally, I've got some bird chillies here. If you're not a chili head, then leave these out. Or perhaps use a bit less. Now while we're at it, let's mix up the dressing for the slaw. We can leave this in the fridge for later. Now for the burger sauce, we've got some ketchup, mayo, a bit of hot sauce, and a bit of lime juice. Pretty simple. So we got a bit of heat in the prawns from the Cajun spice, we got a little bit of heat in the slaw from the chili, and a little bit of heat in the sauce from the hot sauce. So if you're not used to spice, then use a little bit less. This is the hot sauce I normally use, it's my favorite. Now there's only one more ingredient we need, some oil for frying the prawns in. I'm using rapeseed oil, but you can use any oil you like. Now onto the equipment. We'll need a tray with some non-stick paper for the burgers, a pot for frying the prawns, bowl, scales, a dough scraper, temperature probe, and a brush. Right, let's make this dough. As ever, I'm using cold milk because I'm going to be kneading dough by hand. It's going to warm up. In a large bowl, add the milk, follow that with the egg, the yeast, the salt, and the sugar. Now mix these ingredients together. You want to dissolve the salt and sugar and hydrate the yeast. Once you've done that, add the remaining ingredients, the soft butter and the flour. Now grab your dough scraper and mix everything together. Mix it in the bowl until there's no more dry flour left. And if the scraper's not doing the job, continue on by hand. Now pop the dough out on the table and we can start kneading. This dough is not sticky at all, so we use a regular kneading method. What I like to do is press down and forwards with the heel of my right hand. Then using the fingers of my left hand, I fold the piece of dough under the heel of my right hand. Then turn it and repeat. And once you've done this a few times, the motion will become fluent. It'll be like second nature. Knead it for around 5 minutes. Once your dough is nice and smooth, pop it in a bowl and take its temperature. Around 25 degrees is just about right for this. My kitchen is around 24. So now you want to cover it up and leave it to ferment for around 2.5 hours. It should almost double in size. If your dough is fermenting rapidly, cut the process short. If it's taking longer, then leave it for longer. But once it's nicely puffed up, take it out of the bowl, weigh it, and divide it into 4 equal pieces, because we're making 4 burger buns. I'd always suggest using scales when you're dividing your dough in more than 2 pieces. So this recipe is so basic that straight after bulk fermentation, we're doing the final shaping. We'll take a piece of dough, flatten it out, then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until we reach point where it started. Then flip it smooth side up, tighten it against the table. Lastly, pick it up and pinch the seam together at the bottom. And that's your burger bun done. And if you have a piece of dough that's made up of many little pieces, like this one here, you need to try and hide those scraps. So have the main part of the dough on the bottom and the little scraps on the top, and then fold them in. This way we'll get a nice uniform ball without doing pre-shaping or resting. Now that's the last dough ball done, we can move on to final fermentation. Of course the fermentation times in this recipe for bulk proof and final proof will solely depend on the temperature of your kitchen and the temperature of your dough. If your kitchen is cooler, well, you might have to ferment them for longer. Make sure that you have a large enough tray so there's plenty of space between the dough balls. Now cover them up, but not too tight, because we need some space for them to expand in. And leave them to ferment for around 2.5 hours. And during the final hour of fermentation, preheat your oven, 160 degrees Celsius, which is 320 Fahrenheit, with a fan on. and they have risen pretty well. There's a couple more things we need to do before they go in the oven. We'll brush them with a glaze, and as a last minute addition I decided to sprinkle some sesame seeds on top as well. Be nice and gentle when you brush them. You don't want to deflate or deform them, and you can brush them twice. And then finish with generous sprinkling of sesame seeds, or any seeds you like. Now let's pop these bad boys in the oven. They'll take around 25 minutes. And you can turn the tray around halfway through the bake to give them a nice even crust. Well, once they're nicely golden brown all over, they're ready. And don't they look good? These are some nice looking burger buns, right? Especially for how simple they were to make. Now leave them on a rack to cool down for at least 30 minutes. And while they're cooling, we can mix up the slaw. In a large bowl, combine the red onions, spring onions, carrots, and the chili. Give that a quick mix. Be aware that if you do this by hand, your finger's gonna get spicy. Now add the cabbage and mix again. I'm mixing this in stages because my bowl is not very large. Finally, finish with the mayo dressing. And that's how you make a simple slaw. It is fresh, spicy, zingy from the lime juice. It'll perfectly balance the richness of the fried prawns and the burger bun. Now leave that on the side. And once the buns have cooled down, we're gonna toast them with some butter. It's always nice to toast your buns when you're making a burger. It'll give it extra flavor and will prevent the bun from getting soggy. Look at that texture, they're so soft. Now slice the bun in half and spread just a little bit of butter on each side. This step will elevate your burger. It only takes a few seconds. Your pan should be really hot. Now pop your buns in and press them down. Give them a few rotations, press them in, and 30 seconds later, they'll be beautifully golden brown. Like I said, this takes seconds. So we got the sauce, we got the slaw, and we got the buns. There's only one thing we need to do, is fry the prawns. And you must do this last, because you want your prawns to be crispy. Drop them all in the egg and milk mix. This will make the flour stick to the prawn. Now mix them together, so they're all coated. Your oil should be already preheated at this point. So we're gonna take a few prawns. I worked with 10 at a time. Dip them in the flour and then drop them in the oil. 180 Celsius, 360 Fahrenheit. The prawns will take no more than 2 to 3 minutes. And as I mentioned, I'm doing 10 at a time, not to overcrowd the pan. Once you've dropped them all in, give them a quick stir, just to make sure that they're not sticking to the pan or to each other. And then leave them to fry until they're nicely golden brown. Every element of this recipe is so basic, but together they make something amazing. So drain your prawns on some kitchen paper and let's make this burger. And there you have it, some nice crispy Cajun prawns, spicy slaw, burger sauce, and a nice toasted bun. So here's how I'm going to stack it up. I'm not going to put any sauce on the bottom bun, because the slaw is saucy enough. And don't be shy with the slaw, you want a good amount in there. When it comes to the prawns, I actually counted my prawns, and I had 40 of them. So I could go with 10 in each burger, which is quite a good amount. Lastly, put generous dollop of sauce on the top part of the bun, and I even put some more sauce on the prawns themselves. And that's your Bahamian crispy prawn burger. Now tuck in and enjoy. And while you're at it, watch some more Baking World Tour videos, because it's full of delicious recipes from around the world. And as ever, if you have any questions or suggestions or any thoughts, leave them down in comments. And click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because if you love bread and baking, you've come to the right place. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.